So I welcome you, my brothers and sisters, around this table of love. For God is love, and where there is love, there is God. But first I would like us to light a candle in thanksgiving to God for the amazing children of God who dedicate their lives in service to the divine, like little Therese of Lisieux, who showed us the little way. The little way is not so little, it's a magnificent, almighty way to love. So in the name of our beloved Father, Mother, God Supreme, who creates life, in the name of the risen cosmic Christ, who loves life, in the name of the Spirit, who is the fire of life, in the name of Gaia, our beloved Earth Mother, who nurtures the divine in all life, and in the name of all faith traditions and none, for they too are the sons and daughters of God. They are our brother and sister. And in the name of spiritual diversity, I, Brother Sean, on behalf of our community, the brothers and sisters of the Interfaith Franciscans family, welcome you to this table of love. Let us just be still now, and let us remind ourselves of the simplicity of the little flower. But first I want to share with you what my heart was guided to do just before going live. And it was to share with you some poignant words given to us by Saint Therese of Lisieux. Prayer is a powerful tool our gracious God has given us. It helps us to deal with the many things in our daily life that sometimes seems overwhelming. Let us come to this table with a confident heart, with a blessed heart, with a trusting heart. So we share with you tonight some thoughts and reflections based on my own life. What is the little way? The little way that Saint Therese gave to us. And I remember as far back as 1966, when I was a young postulant, yes. But then in 67, things got harder when we became a novice. And one of the books that we were obliged to read as part of our monastic formation was The Way to Holiness, The Way of the Little Way, by Saint Therese of Lisieux. I have read that biography and her books many, 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 many times. And she still continues to inspire my heart. And today, as I lay resting with this infection that's really set me back, I was reflecting on those years ago when I had such a love for her, and still do. And when they were closing the chapel in our School of Nursing in Manchester, I asked the priest, could I have that statue? It was 6 foot tall of Saint Therese. So a few of my friends helped me place her in a blanket and securely wrap her and put her in the car. And there she stood on the top of my small freezer in my bedroom. Yes, from 1978. And And then after 10 years I was guided to send her to the missions in Poland, for they were looking for a statue of Saint Therese, where I know she could do great things. The little way is a part of who we are as Franciscans. It is the way of humility. It is the way of love. And within that body of knowledge, there are keys that enlighten our heart, that enlighten our soul, and allow us to take responsibility for our journey to God. The little way is the way of the child, not the childish child, but the childlike adult, who can become like a little child, and who can come to their Father, Mother, God with a sense of expectancy that what they need they will receive, not what they demand will they get. And for many years I guess I was very childish. I guess I was very immature in my spiritual journey. And it is only through suffering, yes, interesting is that, it's only through suffering, personal suffering, that one really does find the little way to God. Because one comes to God as a child and asks one's God for the tools to survive. And the tool of humility is one of those tools. Humility doesn't come easy to some of us. And if I'm truly honest with you, I would say humility has been a challenge in my life, especially when you have a huge ego. But through mental illness, that was broken. The pride, the arrogance, the I am bigger than you, better than you, is crushed. Praise the Lord. And in your personal walk with God through your dark days, it is there that one finds one's God. And all we have to do, according to the little way of Saint Therese, is to let go of the self, to embrace the heart, and to find one's beloved in the mystery of self-detachment. The little way is a journey. It's a journey of the soul, a soul that is longing for God, a soul that is lifeless without God. And though you and I are tested, really tested, on many levels, as I know from my own journey, but the sufferings we feel and experience are not a punishment from God. They are a gift from God to allow us become a child of God and to ask our God for the grace and the strength that we need to help us embrace the mystery of suffering, to help us not rationalize why, but to surrender one's vulnerability and receive the gift of love. To be humble is to be emptied of myself. It isn't wallowing in my wretchedness. It is bathing in the divine mercy. Pride dwells on all my offences and festers like an infected sore. Humility wastes no time in carrying all offences to the cosmic Christ, Jesus, with confidence to receive forgiveness, and guess what? To start over again. I guess I've had so many starts in my life that I can't remember them. But I know that when we start becoming complacent, feeling I'm okay, Jack, that's when the door knocks and we have to face a challenge. And that challenge often brings us back to the beginning. Who am I? I'm a child of God, and I am loved, not for what I say, not for what I do, but for trusting in my God. Saint Therese helps me understand the splendor of the rose and the whiteness of the lily, for they do not take away the perfume of the little violet or the delightful simplicity of the daisy. If all flowers wanted to be roses, nature would lose her springtime beauty, and the fields would no longer be decked out with little wildflowers. And so it is in the world of souls, Jesus' garden. Perfection consists in doing not my will, but God's will, in being what He wills us to be. And that's taken from the story of a soul by Saint Therese of Lisieux. But you know, in Isaiah chapter 66 verse 2 we read, "This is the one I esteem, he who is humble and contrite of spirit, and trembles at my word." Is that where you are in your journey? It's where I'm at in my journey as I speak with you. And though I struggle on many levels even now, I have no time for dwelling on the poor me. I've done too much of that in my life. And my prayer is not why me, Lord, but why not me? Why should I not experience something of which you endured out of love for me? I'm not portraying myself as a plastic cast saint, because I'm not. I'm human. But within you and me there is something richer, the divine. The Spirit of God dwells in each one of us. And that same Spirit who inspired Jesus, who inspired Mary to conceive, inspired Therese of Lisieux, also inspires you too to take a deep breath and to breathe in the breath of God, and in your out-breath to release yourself, to be free of self, to be free of all the knocks that life throws at you. And for each trial or test that comes our way, rather than we feel helpless and vulnerable, that we remind ourselves that we are a child of God. And like little Therese, we see them not in defeat, but in an expression of love. When we call on the beloved for help, that help inspires us, that help motivates us. And I take heart from this amazing soldier of God. And though she died very young of tuberculosis and had never seen the outside world, she did the same routine every day while she was an enclosed Carmelite nun. And her parting gift to you and to me are these words: I will send down a shower of roses. I will spend my time in heaven doing good on earth. Doing good on earth. What good can she do for you now? Well, she's there with you. The moment you ask her to come to you, she will come to you. And if you are specific and ask for a specific color of a rose, trust me, you will receive it as a sign of her love. But be prepared. With every rose comes a challenge. So let us emulate the presence of God in each of us. For you and I are part of that great mystery, the mystery of selfless love. You and I are just like little Therese. She doesn't focus on her depression because she should be the patron saint of mental illness, for she suffered terribly with depression. And yet, with no medication, she endured her dark night of the soul nearly every day of her life on earth. So what does she offer you and me? Hope. And considering she never left her convent, she was made a doctor of the church and not educated. She was made patroness of the missions of the whole Catholic Church worldwide and never stepped outside Carmel. So what is it about her that we can emulate? Her resignation to do God's will and not her own. And that is a tough one, because we all experience the problems of pride. And so often we seek our own will at the expense of losing all that God has given to us. And it only takes a blip of a second to take our mind off the ball. It could be family problems, it could be illness, it could be disappointing news. But the moment you and I allow negative thoughts to eat away at the Spirit of God within us, then we will lose, trust me, and we will walk and experience the dark night of the soul. I do not recommend that to you, for the dark night of the soul is an experience of where you're in a place of darkness, where there is no light, no clarity, no words of comfort, because the mind has taken control and prevents one from listening to the voice of the beloved. So let us come. Let us come now as we sit here quietly in the presence of love. Let us sit in the stillness of this moment, for I know we come from different time zones to this table of love. Well, let us come as a child of God. Let us acknowledge our woundedness. Let's acknowledge our brokenness. And let us not be stiff upper lip and put ourselves down, for that is not the will of God. The will of God for you and for me is to reclaim God's love in our life, that we are loved, and that we are precious in the eyes of God. And we may not be feeling that, as I'm not, for this presentation is an effort for me. for I'm struggling on every level like you. But my heart guided me to do this in thanksgiving for the many prayers that were answered through Saint Therese of Lisieux. And it's important for me to say that. Let us hold hands. I reach out to touch your hand. Take hold of my hand, for I desire to touch your hand, to feel your strength, your love, your support. Let us come to this table where Christ is present, and sat next to him is Saint Therese of Lisieux, and Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, Magdalena, Gaia, and our spiritual teachers, not forgetting our guardian angels whose feast day it is today. Let us sit now. Let us relax and quietly say to ourselves, I am a child of God, and I am loved, no matter how I feel, no matter where I am at in my faith journey, I am loved. Just be still now. Be still in the presence of your God. And with every in-breath, breathe in the breath of God. For it is not an earthly breath, it is a divine breath. It is the elixir of humility. It is our strength. And as we relax, we sense the peace and the love of God. And before us we see the outline of little Therese. And she's doing something very beautiful. My heart is guiding me to say this. I have no script. I'm listening to my heart. She has brought to this table a bouquet of the most beautiful fragrant roses from the garden of God. And she comes to you, Elizabeth, and she presents to you the most beautiful rose in recognition for your love of God. She comes to Eleanor and presents to you a magnificent rose that resonates with your heart in recognition for your suffering, in recognition for the good you do for others in the name and love of God. And to Miriam, a dear child and daughter of God, she brings to you a truly spectacular rose, and its perfume is almost intoxicating you, for it comes with a message from your beloved Larry. Be strong, for you have much work to do from your little hermitage. And to our dear brother Harry, who struggled so much on so many levels and gets blown off course so easily and so quickly, she has a surprise for you. She has removed the thorns from the rose, and she places in your sacred hands of prayer a beautiful white rose to signify your deep thirst, yearning to be one with God. She recognizes in you, Harry, your gift of love and the need to express that love. And she invites you to sit at this table and take your power back from your illness and from all who have alienated you from your sacred journey, and to follow her example. See the obstacles not as a disappointment, but as an opportunity to grow with God's help. And she brings to all our other novices a special rose because of her love for them, and that they are willing to give up their life in order to be brides of Christ, ambassadors of peace, ambassadors of unity and justice, and to be that light shining in those dark places for those who've lost their way. For all our past members, she sends them a rose too, and reminds them of who they are. She also sends a rose to President Obama and the state of the Senate at present. She sends a rose that the blessing on his healthcare program will succeed and help the many who are vulnerable in America. She sends a rose to the president of Syria, but he's not sure. He's afraid. She sends a rose to all the religious leaders of our world for peace, and a rose to Egypt, to Nairobi, to Pakistan, and to all those places where there is sadness. And she asks you to take the last remaining rose and share it with those who've lost hope. Be still now and look at your rose in the palm of your hand. Look at that rose and let it remind you of God's gift to you through the little flower. And the rose represents acceptance, that regardless of how you feel right now, that you are loved, and that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And the little things that we take for granted, washing up, tidying up after ourselves, feeding the animals, they may appear mundane, and that we should be out doing something fantastic for God. But it's in the little things He told me today. It's in doing the little things and doing them well that brings joy to our God. And He can use those little gifts of joy to bring to those who have no joy. So let us not underestimate our little way of life, for it is in the little things that God performs the greatest miracle. Receive my love. That is the message now. Receive the love of your God and allow it ignite your heart to reawaken the Spirit of God within you. God does not call fair-weather friends to His table. He calls His mighty companions who are devoid of selfishness and wallowing in their own nonsense. He calls those like little Therese and Francis and Claire who are willing to take a step, even though there is no guarantee that they'll have shoes on their feet. So be prepared. Be prepared by allowing prayer back into your life. It is a powerful weapon. It is a weapon of love against hate. It's also a weapon that will keep one's ego in check. Embrace the divinity within you, as Therese did. Though she suffered, as I've said, with depression, her depression became her prayer. Her depression was a key to the kingdom of God. And in death, she began to minister to you and me. Let us be still. Let us be still. And let us celebrate. Celebrate all that we are. A child of God. A child of the light. A child who is set free. Be free. Go to freedom. Go to freedom. And allow the divine flow through you. Be at peace. Be at peace at this day.